Hi, this is Dr. Tori with RookieDoctor.com. I want to go over some quick residency interview tips. Since many of you are preparing for your residency interviews coming up, then I just wanted to go over some questions that you should expect to see once you get on your interview. Now, before I say this, it should be said that often these questions are used as warm-up questions, and that the interview itself usually guides the way the rest of the way through the questions. It's not like most people do not have a checklist of questions in front of them that they want to ask. It's usually that they start with some of these questions and then use your answers to guide them in the rest of their questioning. That's pretty commonplace. Also, if the residency interview meets a stalling point, they might pull one of these questions out. And then a third possibility is that you're not doing so well on the residency interview, and they pull out some of the tougher questions to see how you'll handle the stress. But usually it's not about stressing you out, it's just about finding a good match for the program. So as you look at these questions, you need to think about your answers as if you are in the shoes of the interviewer saying, what do I want for my program? Okay? What do I want for my program? And then that's what your answer should be, as long as it's consistent with who you are and and all true. Okay, so let's go through some of those questions. You should jot these down. I have them available as a PDF on the RookieDoctor.com website, and you should answer these for yourself. At least jot down notes that will trigger some thoughts for you. So the first one is obvious. It's usually the one that people start off with. They might start off with, "Look, I looked through your file. I read your personal statements. You have some great letters of recommendation, but tell me about yourself in your own words." And then they'll say that. So, and then you have to answer that. But you have to somehow balance explaining your strengths, explaining your assets, and how you look at yourself. But at the same time, you don't want to come off as arrogant. Okay, so somewhat of a tough question, but this is one you should certainly be prepared for. You will probably be asked this on every interview you're on. Okay. The next thing is, why are you even pursuing this particular specialty or niche in medicine? Okay, why are you pursuing family medicine? Why are you going? Why do you want to become a surgeon? Why internal medicine? Do you intend to specialize? Tell me about your interest in internal medicine. And this is especially true, meaning this question is especially important if it's known that you're applying to other subspecialties. So make sure you are prepared to answer this. Now, another question is, where do you see yourself at some point in the future? Usually it's 5 years or 10 years or something. So where do you see yourself in 10 years? Where do you see yourself in 7 years? They'll ask this question, just to try to get an idea. Is it in this area? Is it contributing to the field of medicine? Do you plan on retiring early? I mean, they want to know, are you going to be an asset for their program, even once you leave, as an ambassador for their residency program? Okay, and so that's a question about the future. The next one is, what are your greatest strengths? Okay, again, this one's a little hard to answer for the same reason as the first one, but what are your greatest strengths? And again, think in terms of what value is this person going to bring to my residency program? They're not asking you, is nephrology your strong point? No. They're asking you things like, if problem solving is one of your strong points, if listening is one of your strong points, if being a good advisor for people. Okay. Another one is, tell me about your weaknesses. Now this one's sometimes tough for people to do, but in general, if you choose some of your weaknesses that aren't really weaknesses at all, I tend to let people talk a little longer than I should sometimes. Perhaps I focus a little too much on listening, and it might impair my efficiency a little bit. That's not really a weakness. I mean, it is, but it isn't. And it's something that you can unlearn. You can learn when to leave, when to cut something short and when not. So anyway, you get the idea. Tell about your weaknesses that are usually, strong points in certain situations, but weak points in other situations. Okay. The next thing is, why should we choose you over another applicant? Okay, we have 2,600 applicants for 18 spots. Why should we choose you? Okay, again, similar to the prior questions. Now, what interests you in this area is another common question. If you're in Philadelphia, what interests you in the Philadelphia area? Do you have family here? Do you have friends? Whatever, right? They're trying to gauge your interest in the program. What's drawing you to this area? Is it because you got an interview at this place? Because that's not what they want to hear. Okay, you should have some ties to the area or some reason that you love it there. Okay, and why you want to be there. Okay, and that'll pique their interest. Now, tell me about X, something that they found on your CV, and usually it's something that's a little bit strange. Okay, and I say strange meaning you may not even be prepared for it. It might be under the things that you're interested in. So if the person that's interviewing you happens to be a bowler, okay, and you have under there like your fifth or sixth thing under interests or hobbies, bowling, right? They're going to ask you, oh, so you bowl? Oh, what's your average? Blah, 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 blah. You're completely not expecting that, but you should be looking at your CV and saying to yourself, what if they ask me about this? What am I going to say? What if they ask me about this? What am I going to say? Okay? Because you might be being interviewed by somebody that absolutely has that thing as a passion. And if they do, that's awesome because then you can go off and you can let them talk. Okay, but just mention that they might ask you, tell me about something in your CV. Okay, another thing is what interests do you have outside of medicine? Just like you list that blurb on the CV that I just mentioned, but be prepared. I mean, don't say like reading journals. I see that so many times on people's CVs. It's ridiculous. It's possible that that's what you like to do, but they're looking for people that are people, okay, that like to do things that are outside of medicine, that can have conversations with, nurses and janitors and patients' families that have nothing to do with medicine. They don't want encyclopedias. They want well-rounded individuals that are capable of communicating. And sometimes the best way to communicate is around an area of interest. Okay? So make sure you are prepared to answer that question. And then another one, what questions do you have for me? What questions do you have about this program, etc.? Whatever you do, you must have questions for them. If you do not, you will appear uninterested in the program. Okay? And don't be shy about this. And you can ask these. I mean, I remember when I was interviewing for mine, my question centered around how financially viable is the hospital and the residency program, because where I was coming from in Philadelphia at the time, there were hospitals changing hands, and who's buying which hospital, and which hospitals now this system and this and that. So hospitals were coming and going quickly. So I asked, what's the financial situation like for hospitals in the region? And I was surprised at how mature they thought that question was. But I thought it was a pretty reasonable question, right? They did too. They thought it was actually light years ahead of where I should be. So anyway, what questions do you have for me, or what questions do you have about the program? Don't ask questions like, how long is my vacation, or when can I start moonlighting? Those aren't the kind of things. They want insightful questions that aren't about you. They're about how the program, and its viability, its support system, those kind of things. Okay, so that's what they mean by what questions do you have for me. Don't ask stuff about yourself. Okay, so anyway, but anyway, once you get in, that's only the beginning, obviously, because you still have your training years ahead of you. You still have your internship, your residency, perhaps fellowship. So it's only the beginning. And let me tell you something. When I started out my internship, I was average, maybe below average, and I was burning out. Okay, I started burning out quickly, and I think it's because I could have used certain tips and strategies for development during my clinical years in medicine. So if you are in the process of interviewing for your internship and residency, then you are at a key spot to benefit from what I'm about to show you next. Okay, if you go to internship-tips.com, internship-tips.com, I go over how my career completely turned around from a mentor's advice, how I went from actually quitting to becoming actually resident of the year and then chief resident and one of the most celebrated residents in the program. That turnaround happened because of a mentor's advice. And I'm going to share that advice with you if you go to internship-tips.com. And if you are a third or fourth year medical student, probably fourth year if you're watching this interview tips, but if you're still in medical school, this is the time to start doing the internship tips and things like that. Like right now, you might be thinking, oh, I have internal medicine rotation next, or oh, I have general surgery next, and so you're thinking about your clinical rotations. I'm telling you, you should be thinking about this now. This will, if you start preparing for your internship now, you'll be developing habits now in your third and fourth year that will skyrocket your evaluations and then make you an awesome intern and an awesome resident. I'm not kidding. So go to internshiptips.com, internship-tips.com right now for my #1 tip.